Okay, let's fucking do this. So, first, I guess, kind of a story time thing, because you guys need to understand, like, what I'm fucking going through, okay? And if you know me for my previous content, well, you know me, that's what I'm gonna say. But, here's the thing. What I want to do today is a tarot spread that I designed for a very specific purpose of figuring out what the fuck. Because, yeah, here's the thing. So, it's probably gonna sound stupid, I don't care. So, a few years back, this series based on a book came out, The Haunting of Hill House, and there was this one character in the series, the bent neck lady, who I guess made a really strong impression on me, to the point where after watching that series I was struggling with fears for around 3 months after that. So, and I'm a grown-ass woman, okay? So that was a lot, but I got over it. And then, you know, a few years into the future, which is right now, it turns out I'm not fully over it, which is interesting. Just a few days ago, actually, in one of the communities I'm in, somebody was just like casually mentioning the book, and I noticed it, and I just mentioned that I was watching the series and it fucked me up completely. So we had like a little chat about the book, and I figured maybe it would be nice to read the book, which I think I need to do to dig into this further. But anyway, last night I woke up in the middle of the night with this sudden fear, completely out of the blue and making no logical sense, that the bent neck lady is with me in my bedroom, which was terrifying, to be honest. And I had to like turn my lights on and sleep with my lights on until I woke up in the morning. And it's really unlike me. Like, dude, I'm working with the devil, I'm working with demons and the dead, and that's completely fine. And I go do rituals in the forest at night, okay? But then this character is just fucking me up so bad, and I have no idea why. So, make of that what you will. I'm not here to be psychoanalyzed, for sure. I'm a psychologist myself, so I will deal with this eventually, but I thought I did, but it kind of came up again, so I figured it could be fun to create a tarot spread just for this purpose of kind of digging into it more. I don't really know what to call this exploration exactly. It's mostly just out of curiosity, to be honest. So some would probably consider this shadow work, others would consider this spirit work, although this is not an actual spirit, it's a character, so whatever. I'm just looking at this as something that has to do with my own psyche and my own emotional situation, I guess. And I want to do this to kind of dig into some shit and basically see what comes up. And I thought it would be fun, but apparently I'm very nervous about it for some reason. To the point where, you know, I created this spread and I was really hesitant to do it. Then I figured maybe I should record this so I have like a record of this shit and my first reactions to the cards, because this could be helpful in further analysis in the future. And so then I was trying to choose a deck to use for this purpose, and I was like looking at a few decks that I would like theme-wise. But then as I was looking at the cards, this sudden thought occurred to me that I don't want these decks to be spoiled with her energy, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. And then I got a fucking nosebleed out of nowhere, okay? And I rarely ever get nosebleeds. So yeah, that was odd. And it's telling me that there's like a lot of shit built up inside of me in regards to this, for sure. But anyway, with the kind of nosebleed theme, what came to mind was to use the Tarot of Vampires. So that's what I'm gonna use. Because I guess I kinda don't care if it gets spoiled with her energy, whatever. Yeah, and it fits the blood theme, right? I mean, the character itself has nothing to do with blood, but I mean my nosebleed. So anyway, that was, I guess, like a nudge to pick something, and this deck was what came up. So anyway, I will put up a screen for you explaining the structure of the spread first. So I will explain it first, and then I will just lay the cards and see what comes up. This deck is not really a deck that I work with a lot, and I like to use the guidebook with it because it has great descriptions. So I have the guidebook kind of near me, and I'm probably going to reference it, because especially when you're reading for shit like this, it's sometimes hard to, be objective enough to make it helpful. So a guidebook is sometimes helpful in situations like that. So yeah, anyway, the structure of the spread. The first card, which is the middle card, is called The Neck, and it's Why Do I Fear You So Much? Then the second card, we kind of go downwards, and it's the Noose. What past experiences make you so terrifying for me? Then we have the third card on the left from the second one, the Paralysis. Why is it so hard for me to get over my fear of you? Then the fourth card, which is on the right side, is the Wound. What makes your story so deeply relatable to me? And then we move up to the head, because you probably noticed by now that the spread is kind of shaped like the bent neck lady. So then position 5 is the Contorted Face. Why do you keep haunting me? What is your message? And then finally, card number 6 is the Bound Spirit. How can we free ourselves from each other? Because I'm not assuming here that I am being held hostage by her image, archetype, whatever. I'm just, open to whatever comes up. So I try to leave those spread positions kind of open-ended and pose them as a conversation. So I guess let's do this. Yikes. So I'm just going to shuffle the cards, lay them down, and see what the fuck comes up. If at any point this gets way too personal, then I might, cut off some bits. And I was just thinking, because this spread, even though it's very much inspired by her and her story, and the spread positions are kind of themed in that way, I think it can be pretty universal in working with similar, situations with other characters, archetypes, spirits, whatever you want to call them, or like nightmares or something. So yeah, if you feel like this spread could be useful for you, feel free to use it. Yeah, anyway, let's just focus for a moment. Okay, so I laid all the cards and I realized that you can't see them all, which is a shame. Just trying to move them up a bit. That helps a tiny bit. Okay, anyway, so let's see position number 1, which is the neck. Why do I fear you so much? Interesting. I got the sun card for this one, and I'm just going to how do you say this? I'm just going to like reverse all the cards first so we can see what we have, and then as I see the kind of full picture, then I'm going to try and make sense of it, because that's kind of how I work. So the news, which is what past experiences make you so terrifying for me, is the 10 of Knives. Again, interesting. Then number 3, the paralysis. Why is it so hard for me to get over my fear of you? Queen of Grails. Number 4, the wound. What makes your story so deeply relatable to me? And we have the 9 of Scepters. Then 5, the contorted face. Why do you keep haunting me? What is your message? Temperance. And finally, the bound spirit. How can we free ourselves from each other? Ace of Knives. Okay, this one is very straightforward, actually. All right. So let me just soak this in for a minute. Okay, so going off of the kind of image on this card, because it's telling me more than, you know, just the plain, I guess, traditional symbolism, although I will get to that in a moment. For the neck, why do I fear you so much? It's just, you know, a slight, very slight hint at integrating a side of me that's really not desirable. A side that perhaps doesn't really, or at least that's how I feel about it, doesn't really feel like it fits the rest in a way. But also with this being the Sun card, obviously I just feel like it's shining a spotlight on my weaknesses, on my fear in this regard. So I'm just wondering if perhaps this would be a generalized image representing my fears. So the bent neck lady just happens to be exactly that for me. Just a generalized image of how my fears and anxieties manifest in the dark. Something that, you know, is exactly what I do not want to see, if that makes sense. That's what I'm getting for now. So then we have the 10 of Knives, which is the 10 of Swords for the news. What past experiences make you so terrifying for me? And I think I know exactly what this is telling me. So far, I don't really feel like using the book, to be honest, which I didn't expect. But 10 of Knives is somebody you know, just stabbed down and immobilized. And in this particular depiction, she really makes me think of sleep paralysis, which is actually something that I've been struggling with when I was younger. And what is really interesting is that I had a couple cases of sleep paralysis just the past few months, which you know, is something, I guess, new for me at this stage in my life, to be kind of reoccurring. And what's interesting is that in the series, I don't want to spoil what's happening, but the person who's the most haunted by the bent neck lady actually suffers from sleep paralysis as well, which just makes me think that, you know, it's related. So what past experiences make you so terrifying for me would be exactly that, the sleep paralysis that I used to experience quite a lot when I was younger, and that was when I would often see figures in the dark, similarly to the character in the show. For them, it was the bent neck lady, right? So there is a theme for sure. Anyway, let's move on. Position 3 is the paralysis. Funnily enough, I named it after that detail that I just mentioned to you. Why is it so hard for me to get over my fear of you? Queen of Grails. Okay, so I really don't want to overshare, you know. Yeah, I really don't want to overshare, but let's just keep it simple and say that I'm not the most open emotionally, and I feel like getting over this fear expects exactly that from me. So I definitely need to face my vulnerabilities in order to be able to get over it. I mean, as you can probably tell, like from the intro I gave you, I perceive myself as a person who has her fears in check. At least that's how I tried to present myself, and now I realize this. But you know, this is really ironic, right? That I'm trying to present myself this way and I perceive myself this way while doing a fucking spread that has to do with exactly that, with my fucking fears, right? So there's something that I'm not honest with myself about in this regard. I really need to take a closer look at this and reevaluate my relationship with my fears. I feel like my fears have been kind of ruling my emotional makeup when I was a younger person so much that when I guess worked through it enough to be able to gain control over it, to some extent at least, I really didn't want to perceive myself this way anymore, because it's really just disempowering on a lot of levels. You can probably imagine, like, of course nobody wants to perceive themselves as somebody that's weak and ruled by fears, right? So of course I don't want that for myself either, but if that's what's coming up for me, if there's a fear, you know, a long standing kind of old fear re-emerging for no apparent reason, out of nowhere almost, then I need to re-examine, because maybe it's time to look at it again. It never really disappeared. It, you know, was internalized for a period of time, and now it's perhaps a good time to, you know, take a good look at it again. Then we have position 4, the wound. And for this, position, the question is, what makes your story so deeply relatable to me? And again, without spoiling too much of the story, I feel like what's showing up here, this is the Nine of Scepters, so the Nine of Wands. You know, this is to me at least, this is a funny card because it's so, you know, the two sides of the coin are so clearly visible with this one. At one hand, you kind of went through a lot of trials and you arrive at the spot where I guess you see yourself as somebody who managed to succeed through that. But at the other hand, you are really kind of worn down and wounded and just have been through a lot of shit. And it's apparent that it's taken a toll on you, right? This card as the wound, right, is especially interesting. And I guess it relates to what I was talking about just a moment ago about how I think I've been through, you know, all this shit and basically am over it. But it turns out I'm really not, because it's taken a toll. It left a mark, and that mark is what I need to be examining, right? And the question was, again, what makes your story so deeply relatable to me is that the main character's story is kind of interestingly fitting this theme of being through shit and being wounded and all of that, and kind of suffering from never truly being seen for what she went through. Almost feeling like she's invisible to others because of that. So yeah, that truly does feel relatable. I don't want to like elaborate on which aspect of my life this relates to, but it's definitely some deeply rooted themes for me. That's for sure. I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay, so now let's move on to position 5, which I got the Temperance, and the question is, the position is the contorted face. Why do you keep haunting me? What is your message? And interestingly, I think this is not so straightforward in the sense, you know, of looking at temperance as temperance. What I'm seeing here is the card of my sun sign, Sagittarius. Temperance is the Sagittarius card, and we are in the Sagittarius season right now, and I can't help but think that actually, because you know, again, the question is, why do you keep haunting me? What is the message? And maybe, just maybe, the message is just that this is the time of the year when you go through shit, because that's exactly it. Especially December, I am kind of conditioned emotionally to associate with bad traumatic experiences in my life. So I think, you know, it would be fucking stupid not to acknowledge that aspect. And I think this is what this Temperance is really trying to hint at, which, I mean, not bad, dude. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. Perhaps I'm more vulnerable now because it's this time of year, right? And I probably, like, something would have come up anyway, because it always does every year. But it's just interesting that it happened to be her specifically. So yeah, that's how I'm reading this one. And then lastly, position number 6, which is the bound spirit. How can we free ourselves from each other? So for this one, I got the Ace of Knives. And to me, as I was laying those cards and like turning them over, I said that this one seems pretty like easy to read for me straight away. I knew what this one was about. And the first thought that really came to mind for me was, cord cutting, something that I really need to, cut my ties with, clear off of myself, and surgically remove from my space, my life, my ties, not thighs, my ties with others and like relationships, that kind of shit. I mean, I'm not mad. This is something I would like to do, definitely. Perhaps I shouldn't be digging into this too much. Perhaps this should just be like a clean cut, and not trying to, you know, open some old wounds and shit. But at the other hand, aren't the other cards kind of hinting at me doing exactly that, like trying to get over shit too quickly, or like without giving it enough attention, you know what I mean? So I really need to rethink this, if the Ace of Knives means cord cutting or you know, something else. And I think even though this was the only card that I said like, oh, easy, yeah, I know what this is about, actually I think this is gonna be the only one that I check out in the book and see what the book tells me. Okay, so interestingly, the essence of the card that's described here says the essence of thought, the mind, the root of consciousness, mental activity, clear perception, divine inspiration, objectivity, truth, justice, differentiating, divine authority, determination, triumph, intellectual communication, living in the clarity of the moment, beauty and harmony, purity, health, protection from fear, liberty. So what jumps at me is the protection from fear, because this is a spread that's, you know, centers around a fear that I have. So I feel like this is especially relevant. And it goes on to say, this ace urges us to use our deeply focused thoughts and the powers of our mind to overcome misunderstandings, fears, or challenges. We should analyze the situation clearly and logically without personal judgment, emotion, or fear, using both our unconscious intuition and our conscious mind. A firm choice or decision needs to be made. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I don't mind making a firm choice or decision around this. That's for sure. Yeah, that's a good vibe for this. Although I don't know what the choice or decision should be yet, but I feel like it should probably be taken based on evidence. But let's just take a quick look at the shadow aspect of the card, which is something that this book features as well. So here it says, uninspired, pessimistic, or confused, chaos or oppression, restless, stressful, or tense. Yeah, that's a fucking mood, honestly. Weak will, imbalance, or dullness of mind, punishment, affliction, and negative or destructive thoughts, lack of objectivity, mental anguish or mental illness, a malicious mental attack, being held back. Okay, so these themes here have to do with lack of mental clarity, a lot of restlessness, stress, being tense, the mind being kind of dull, mental attacks. I am ignoring stuff like mental illness because I really don't think tarot cards should be used for giving those kinds of messages. Honestly, it's wrong on many levels. But anyway, yeah, this is a mood that's definitely present. I don't want to bore you, but yeah, been really overworked, stressed, and just tired as fuck, honestly. So maybe that's what this speaks to. Yeah. I'm probably going to be sitting with this spread for the entire weekend now, so that's not something I wish to be sharing in depth anyway, and probably none of you are interested anyway, because like, what the fuck, you have your own lives, right? But I just wanted to record these initial impressions that I have with the spread, just to have it somewhere that I can reference, you know, like my first thoughts that I had about it. Because as I said, that could be useful later on into the kind of analysis process of what the fuck is going on. Anyway, I feel like this was fairly useful. Wasn't necessarily mind-blowing in any way, although some themes kind of called me out on shit. So yeah, I'm pleased with this spread. Anyway, if you kind of survived throughout all this, thanks so much for watching, and see you around. Bye.